There was a 68-year-old man on a rotten wooden pier on Lake Texoma in North Texas. A fishing rod worth about $40. Old monofilament line. No electronics, no fish finder, no apps open on his cell phone. Next to him, a small coffee cup with some rusty screws inside, as if it were forgotten change in a toolbox. On the other side of the water, three guys in a brand-new bass boat with a $900 fish finder, a Soliner app running on an iPad, imported lures costing $16 each. Everything the fishing store pushes as essential for serious anglers. Late in the afternoon, the old man opened the cooler containing 21 catfish. The three from the boat added 4 fish. One of them wasn't even 12 inches long. Stay until the end, because I'm going to show you exactly what this man tied to the hook, and why it does what a $1,000 piece of equipment can't do. If this is your first time here, subscribe and turn on notifications. This channel offers exactly the kind of knowledge the industry would prefer you never see. Before continuing, this man took a rusty screw from that little cup, wrapped it twice around the fishing line with his fingers, and threw it into the water without any ceremony. It was worth 3 cents. He threw it in and went to sit down, as if he already knew what was going to happen. The secret wasn't the bait. It was what the screw did in the water, and that was taught to him by a retired electrician who had been fishing in the Red River since the 70s. Knowledge passed down from hand to hand, never put in a box with a logo. But who is this man, and where did this trick that humiliates fish finders come from? Let me tell you the story from the beginning. His name is Dale, 68 years old, fishing for catfish in Texas and Oklahoma for 45 years. He's not a weekend hobbyist. He's the guy the local guides call when the water's rough and the fish have disappeared. He learned the screw trick from an electrician named Vernon in 1979. Vernon worked in industrial maintenance at a Texas plant and fished every Saturday at Possum Kingdom Lake, with results that made no sense to anyone on the pier. Vernon's theory was simple. When two different metals come into contact with water, a tiny current is generated between them, and fish sense electric current in a way that no human can imagine. Dale took this seriously. He started writing everything down in a little notebook: type of screw, type of hook, water temperature, species, time. 45 years of records. Not in an app, not in a spreadsheet, in a 50-cent notebook. The pattern that emerged most consistently, a common iron screw with visible oxidation on the shank of a carbon steel or stainless steel hook, generated a catch difference that Dale estimated at 4 to 1 compared to bait without additional metal. Under certain temperature conditions, water below 62 degrees, it reached 6 to 1. He tested it in Lake Texoma, the Red River, and Toledo Bend. Summer, autumn, winter, at depths of 8 to 28 feet. It worked whenever he respected the right conditions, and none of the bass boat owners around ever understood why Dale kept catching more fish. They attributed it to luck, to position, to the bait. It wasn't any of that. Now you've seen the result. The part that changes everything is understanding why. Because without understanding why, you'll mess up when it really matters. What Dale and Vernon knew is what any basic electrical physics textbook explains. When iron and steel come into contact with water, what is called a galvanic cell occurs. A potential difference is created between the two metals. This difference generates a microcurrent, small, constant, invisible, but real. Now, consider catfish. In the lateral line of these fish, there is a system called electroreception, receptors that detect electric fields and pressure variations with a precision not found in any fishing instrument. Researchers at the University of Tennessee have documented that catfish respond to electric fields of less than 1 Microvolt per centimeter. 1 microvolt. Less than you can measure with a cheap tool multimeter. For them, the microcurrent from the rusty screw on the steel hook is like a bell ringing underwater, directly in the direction they most often use to hunt for food. It's not smell. It's not color. It's an electric field, and they go after it. A study of fishing guides in Mississippi and Tennessee found that combinations of different metals in lures resulted in a 38% higher catch rate for catfish during periods of low activity, precisely when the fish finder shows little movement on the sonar, and the average angler thinks the fish aren't biting. Catfish, crappie, redfish, and speckled trout are the species that respond most strongly to this phenomenon. This is no accident. These are species that hunt extensively by electroreception, especially in water with low visibility. The industry sells electric attractors for $150 to $300 with batteries and LEDs that, at their core, try to replicate exactly what a 3-cent screw already does naturally. The link below has a complete guide to help you stop spending money on electronics and start using what already works. Just download it. You already know what works and why it works. Now comes the part that separates the fishermen who test it and say, "It didn't work," from those who come back every weekend with a full cooler. Most people who hear about metal hooks and fishing lines do it the wrong way possible. They grab any old screw, tie it any old way, throw it in the water, catch nothing, and then say it's just an urban legend. It's not a legend. It's execution error. First point, the metal matters. The screw has to be made of common iron or galvanized iron, preferably with visible oxidation, that superficial rust that everyone throws away. A stainless steel screw doesn't create a potential difference with a steel hook. Identical or very similar metals don't generate a galvanic cell. It needs to be a truly different metal. Rusty iron with a carbon or steel hook. That combination works. Second point, the contact needs to be metal to metal. It's not about placing the screw on the line, hanging above the hook. The screw needs to be in physical contact with the hook's leader. 2 or 3 turns wrapped around the leader, tightened with your fingers, rust touching the steel. That's where the reaction happens. Without this direct contact, there is no microcurrent. Third point, water temperature changes everything. Below 62 degrees, catfish and crappie become more dependent on electroreception than on smell. It is under these conditions, autumn, winter in Texas and Oklahoma, cold mornings on the lake, that the screw bait outperforms any scented bait that the store sells for $12, $15. Fourth point, water type. The microcurrent dissipates in water with a lot of movement. A river with a strong current dilutes the electric field before it travels far. The effect is stronger at the bottom of a lake, in backwater, or in a reservoir with little flow. This is where the field remains concentrated around the lure long enough to attract the fish. This temperature adjustment, combined with the type of substrate, is one of those detailed in the guide, along with 2 others that completely change the outcome in cold water. Dale uses 2 more adjustments that most people never consider. 1. A lead weight an inch above the screw on the cable creates a third metallic contact point, lead, iron, and steel, that amplifies the galvanic field at no cost. The other, he calls them copper hours. There's a window of approximately 2 hours in the early morning, and a window in the late afternoon where the catfish's natural feeding behavior coincides with the time when the water temperature drops enough to intensify electroreception. During these periods, the screw's effect is strongest. Dale doesn't use a fish finder to identify these times. He uses a $3 water thermometer and his notebook. If it works this well and costs almost nothing, why didn't the store ever tell you that? because the store doesn't make any money selling 3-cent screws. And that's all. The American fishing industry rakes in billions a year. Not from fish, from equipment. Fish finders for $800. Electronic attractors for $250 with blue LEDs and 9-volt batteries. Cellular apps with a monthly plan of $14.99. Imported lures for $16 each. Each product has a battery that runs out, firmware that needs updating, and a new version arriving next fall. The model works because you buy it, use it, and then need to replace it. A rusty screw breaks that cycle completely. The same screw lasts a year, 2 years. There's no subscription. There are no updates. There's no battery. The knowledge that 2 different metals in water create microcurrents and that catfish sense this. This knowledge existed in the rivers of the southern United States decades before fish finders existed. Electricians, welders, mechanics who fished after work on the Sabine River, the Red River, and the Mississippi. They knew. They passed it on to each other on the pier, chatting after fishing. It never made it into a package. Then, in the 2000s, someone realized that the concept could be packaged. It became an electric fish attractor with a plastic case, blue LED, and a price tag of $249. The principle is the same as Vernon's screw from 1979. Potential difference in water. Only now it has a brand name, a 1-year warranty, and you replace the battery every month. The guides Dale knows, the old men from Lake Texoma and Possum Kingdom, none of them use electronics. They all use simple metal, water temperature gauges, and notebooks. And they come back with fish when the $900 fish-finding boats return empty. Dale cast his line into Lake Texoma that day without ceremony. He wrapped the line around the hook twice with 2 fingers, threw it in the water, and went to sit on the cheap plastic cooler. The 3 guys in the base boat were fine-tuning the sonar when he pulled in his first catfish. 21 fish later, he closed the cooler and left. It wasn't luck. It wasn't position. It was knowledge passed down from electrician to fisherman, from fisherman to anyone who asked respectfully, and which the industry never had any interest in putting on a shelf because there's no way to charge a monthly fee for a rusty screw. Click now, secure your access to high-level fishing, and let these strategies start transforming your next fishing trips. The link is in the first pinned comment. When you return from the water applying what you've learned, come back here and comment, "I caught more." This will be your commitment to your evolution in fishing. And perhaps it's exactly the step that separates the stories you hear from the stories you'll start telling. While everyone else arrives at the lake calibrating their fish finder and checking their cellular app, you'll arrive with a rusty screw and the knowledge that this system tried to bury back in the 80s. And the cooler will reveal who was right. If you haven't subscribed yet, do it now and turn on notifications. The next video has another secret that the old folks have kept for decades, and that no fishing store will sell you.